Welcome everyone to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeVare's Casino. Ronnie Rance, TK, Tommy Chrysan with you on this spicy Monday morning edition of Sports Shorts. Of course, this is the BK Monday edition. Brian Kelly out as coach at LSU. A shocker to those that understand the world of economics. Brian Kelly is gone. It happened yesterday afternoon. First heard about it, about 2:30 or so, that it was going to happen, something around that time. Brian Kelly's out. Joe Sloan officially out as offensive coordinator this morning. I think, Tommy, most people expected Joe Sloan to be gone this morning, not Brian Kelly. After that after the debacle to Texas A&M, most people thought that, okay, something's going to happen. Somebody's going to lose their job during the off week. Made the most sense. The offense has been extremely disappointing. Joe Sloan's going to go. Well, instead, it's the whole kit and caboodle. We'll find out if anyone else gets the axe today. Well, we had the press release came out this morning about 8:30 from LSU football that Sloan is out. Alex Atkins, the tight ends coach, who was the run coordinator, he will be now calling the plays. Alex Atkins was a guy who for 5 years was the OC line coach at Florida State, and then was their coach when he went 13-1 one year. So he'll take over the play calling. That's a little bit of a surprise. People thought Alex Atkins yesterday afternoon. Then Tim Rattay's name was mentioned as well, the former, NFL and Louisiana Tech quarterback who's a analyst for the team. Some thought that maybe he would call the plays, but it's official that Alex Atkins will call the plays. Got 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama and see if he can bring something new to the table. I will say this, Tommy. At least Alabama's going to have to prepare for a lot of different things, right? They're going to watch LSU's game film to this point this season. They're also going to have to go back in the time machine and watch Florida State game film to kind of see what he's accustomed to doing. So it'll give them something to prepare for. They'll have 2 weeks as well, but it'll be definitely a challenge for Alabama as they don't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks. Maybe that helps LSU on offense.
It could certainly the Alabama coaches will give that some attention, no question about that. But yeah, we talked about it last week. I thought that if they lost badly, which they did, that something was going to happen. I was thinking Joe Sloan would be either somebody else calling the plays or he's fired. And then when it started brewing yesterday, I'm like everybody else. I was looking at the phone, refreshing Twitter, calling a few people. My phone blowing up with people that think I'm on the inside of the building or something. But it just I thought Peter Burns of the FCC Network made a good comment. He said Les Miles loved coaching at LSU, Ed Orgeron loved coaching at LSU, Nick Saban loved coaching at LSU. Brian Kelly liked coaching at LSU. That was Peter Burns' opinion, and it kind of hit me when I read it that it might be a little something to that. Certainly, Coach O loved LSU. We know that story, okay? But for those who didn't think Kelly was a fit from the beginning, I remember the night I remember where I was sitting on a Monday night when I heard that they had hired Brian Kelly when Lincoln Riley supposedly pulled the rug at the last minute. I'm thinking, Brian Kelly? What? And at that point, that was a Monday night. Notre Dame was in contention for a possible playoff spot. I'm like, he's not going to leave. They might be in the playoff. Brian Kelly. I remember thinking that. And then I remember talking at length with Coach Skip Bertman, who, really believed that Coach Kelly was an elite coach and was going to get the job done like a Kim Mulkey, like a Jay Johnson has done, and, other LSU coaches that have been successful. And I kind of hung my hat on that. But then as time went forward, and this isn't a hindsight 2020 thing, it wasn't that perfect fit that my first reaction, like Brian Kelly, it kind of went in there. And teams supposed to get better as you go forward. They have not gotten better. And in particular, this season, he's made the comment in August, we have the best roster I've ever seen. Okay, we went out, we get the NIL, we did the portal, and blah, 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 blah. But then that didn't transfer to success on the field. And in some ways, I'm shocked that they fired him because of the money that's involved, and it's well documented. And she might not have the same kind of money as some other schools have, especially in the Power Four. But it's been done now, and there's a couple layers here, Ryan. There's an interim president at LSU. They're in the process. I think they've narrowed it down to 5 people to become the next president. And a lot of people saying, well, should Scott Woodward be the guy that picks the next coach? The two biggest coach buyouts in the history of college sports, Jimbo Fisher, Brian Kelly, both people that Scott Woodward hired. Obviously, Fisher at A&M, Kelly here. So it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks going forward. The portal opens January 2. You got other recruiting. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to get somebody pretty quickly, but how quickly can you get it? Who do you want? Who wants LSU? A lot of stories will unfold in the coming weeks.
Well, obviously, everyone's going to be going after Lane Kiffin. We'll talk plenty more about who are the candidates in the weeks to come. But for right now, the Brian Kelly situation was shocking. This is a situation where LSU is hoping for a settlement. And what I mean by that is Brian Kelly, they supposedly they went to Brian Kelly about resigning and taking a settlement, and he rejected it, which he should. If you're going to fire me, give me my $54 million, which is what he's owed. LSU thinks they can potentially have reason to fire him for cause. That'll be something that they negotiate and try to strong arm. Their officials, their attorneys feel like there's a couple of things. One that's more in the personal side of his life. The other is the Greg Brooks situation. Greg Brooks is suing LSU, and Greg Brooks is suing the Our Lady of the Lake Hospital for his brain damage situation and how LSU misdiagnosed it and said it was vertigo and all these things. And so that is a big lawsuit that's moving through the courts right now. It's being, right at the moment, it looks like it's going Greg Brooks's way. And so that is a situation where I think they feel like they can probably leverage that horrific story and that horrific situation on how it was handled by LSU football. And whether it's Brian Kelly directly, but it fell underneath his tenure, and he was the boss, and he's the one that ultimately made the decision to play him. And so I think between a couple of things that he's got, a little bone in the closet potentially, and the Greg Brooks situation, I think they feel like they can leverage him to take less money than $54 million. They're going to fire him for cause to go after zero. They don't. I don't think so. But can they say, look, we'll drag this on and make it to where you don't get your money till you're an old man in diapers, or we can figure this out right now and come up with a smaller number and all move on. Not to mention they're going to hope that he gets a big job, whether it's coaching or TV or something like that, so that that'll cut into the $10 million a year they owe him. But I'm just shocked from a standpoint of the economics of it all. I'm very familiar with the economics of LSU athletics and TAF and all that, and they ain't got it. They don't have it like everybody else. They don't have it like Texas A&M, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. They don't have it like that at all. And all you do is hear about how broke they are. All you do hear behind the scenes is, man, we're coming up short. We got to get money. We got to do this. But yet you're going to go piss away $100 million getting rid of a coach. Like, I'm glad they figured it out. I hope they are able to leverage the situation. But I mean, this is financially, quite honestly, irresponsible unless there's a pot of gold that the governor is, or some kind of monies that the governor is going to release to them that we don't know about, or the discretion he's got, because they ain't got it. It'd be like you, Tommy, going out and buying a Ferrari and people going, oh, see if Tommy's driving around. Tommy can't really afford a Ferrari, but somehow he's driving it, And that's what LSU's doing right now. And the only way it works out, Tommy, is that the next coach, whoever you get, it has to work, and you have to win quickly and be in the playoffs and be in the SEC championship quickly so that you can recoup that investment. When you win, not only do you get money, more money, and bigger shares and all that, but you also have donors that are now on board and new donors and new monies that come in. It's a lot easier to give when you're winning than when you're losing, and they got to win quickly.
Yeah, I'll stick with my Jerry Lane Chevrolet pickup truck. I'll stay away from the Ferrari for right now. Okay, if I win the Powerball, I'm not going to have a Ferrari. I can tell you that. But no, it's all driven by money. Okay, money's the root of it all. in the world of sports and in social world, everything, business. It's all about money. And, you would hope they figured something out, or they rolling the dice with some issues that you addressed. And it is in the contract that if he gets a football related job, which means it could be TV, doesn't have to be a head coach, doesn't have to be an assistant coach, and then somebody saying he's going to Penn State, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. I don't think he's being a head coach at a Power Four school again. But might he be attracted to TV? I don't know. He doesn't have a TV personality, I don't think. But what do I know? So
Did you think Nick Saban had a TV personality? I mean, he's turned out to be pretty good.
He does, yeah. But when you win, you can be like that. Bobby Knight had his detractors, but he won.
Brian Kelly is the winningest active coach in college football. Like, we have to, if you look at his body, where I think he was 34-14 or something like at LSU, like from a distance, 1,000 foot, people looking at LSU going, wait, y'all are 5-3 this year. What are we doing? Like, but it's not, it's about winning the big games. It's about winning the big games. It's about beating your rivals. You know who our rivals are? According to the SEC, our rivals are Ole Miss, A&M, and Arkansas. We play them every single year. And LSU's 0-2 against our rivals this year, with Arkansas coming, with Petrino. And so, and not only that, just the it goes back to what you said at the beginning, Tommy. And he's not a fit. Brian Kelly's never been a fit. It was forced. I agreed with the hire when they did it. Don't get me wrong. The guy was the best available. It's just like, Alabama hired the best available coach when they got rid of Shula. It was Nick Saban. Brian Kelly was the best available coach they could have gotten at the time. Or him and Lincoln Riley were what and what. Lincoln Riley was this young Lane Kiffin type on the come up at Oklahoma. TK, can you mute your phone? I'm hearing like meat slicing or whatever's going on over there. But Lincoln Riley was like a Lane Kiffin. He was the hot thing. He was the offensive guru. He was on the come up. LSU thought they had him. He ended up going to USC. He's kind of done a Brian Kelly type job, at worst maybe, over at USC. And then Brian Kelly was this tried and true veteran, 60-year-old coach at Notre Dame, had, been in a national championship game, but a consistent playoff, contender every year type of thing, in the conversation and for top 2, 3, 4 teams every year. And had won at every level of college he'd been at. So I agreed with the hire. I liked the hire. If they couldn't get Lincoln Riley, I was totally fine with Brian Kelly. Thought it was a coup, and it just didn't work out. It wasn't the right fit from jump. I think he turned out to be a lot nicer of a guy and a much better guy. You talk to the media. Jacques Doucet said last night, "Hey, I had my reservations when he came here, but he gave the media more access than the previous 2 coaches ever did. He was, gave good answers. Was charming to be around. I thought at his TJ Ribs Thursday night deals, he got better as the years went on. At first, he wasn't really interacting with the fans, but then by the end, he'd get up during the commercials and go shake hands with sponsors and do all the right things, took pictures. Like, he did what you wanted. It just, he never connected with the fans that just came off of Kuyaya Coach O and down to Bayou and my Uncle O, and loving that type guy. It was such an extreme jump from O to Kelly. And if you're going to make that jump, you better win. And he just didn't. Not enough.
Well, and it's win the big games. That's James Franklin at Penn State. His record speaks for itself, and it's pretty sporty, other than in the ranked games, big games, right, top 10 games, whatever you want to call it. So, and that's where college football is now. Ronnie, he's the 7th Power 4 coach to be fired this year. Now, there's different stories with all 7. Like Gundy at Oklahoma State, that window finally just closed, okay? He'd been there for a long time. He was an assistant before he was the head coach there. So, there's lots of stories there, but that's where college football is. It's money. It's win now. It's being the 12 team. Everybody talked about, hey, 12 teams in the playoffs would be great. And the coaches thinking, well, that's great because we got more of a chance to be in that number. But also, if you're not in that number, it works against you if you can't get in the top 12 now, as it stands now, top 12. So, hey, it'll be an interesting couple of weeks, couple of months for LSU football in the big picture. they just got to get bowl eligible now. And I would, Western Kentucky's decent, but I don't know if there's a lot of other wins on the schedule for LSU. But maybe there'll be a little juice when they play Bama. But Bama's certainly really good. In spite of that loss and to open the season up, they've managed to get it done since. But it's just a tough gauntlet in college football, not just the SEC, but nationwide. I mean, who would have thought Missouri and Vanderbilt would be ranked and game day would be at that game, and people like Penn State wouldn't be ranked, LSU, Texas at the bottom of the poll, and they snuck by Mississippi State in overtime this weekend. I mean, it's just not what you could have predicted, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, them same 7, 8 teams fighting for the spots. It's different now. Arguing that, Indiana could be one of the best teams in the country. A quarterback to win the Heisman. Look what A&M's doing. They haven't become A&M yet to falter at the end of the schedule. So a lot involved, and we'll just have to see what happens next for LSU football. It's going to be different.
LSU's lost to 3 top 10 teams. Let that soak in. Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and A&M. If you're Brian Kelly's agent, you're saying, hey, wait a minute. He didn't do a terrible job. Just got beat by 3 top 10 teams. The problem is that LSU went all in $18-20 million on this roster. Brian Kelly himself said it's the best roster we've had since I've been in LSU. And the expectations at LSU is to be one of those top 12 teams at least every other year. It's kind of like LSU baseball. They expect to be in Omaha every other year, and at least in a super regional every year. And for LSU football, they expect to be in the playoffs every other year, and they're not headed to the playoffs this year. And LSU should never, ever, ever, on any circumstances, lose to Vanderbilt in football. And if he beats Vanderbilt, he's still the coach at LSU, and you just can't lose to Vanderbilt. Now, give Vandy credit. Love Pavia, love the story, love what they're doing, love their coach, love the whole thing. And they squeaked by Missouri and did their thing this past weekend. But it is going to be. It's going to be interesting. I think LSU has a chance against Alabama, and here's why, Tommy. First off, Alabama's not the invincible Alabama. They should have lost to South Carolina. They didn't. Give them credit. They didn't look super dominant against Vandy, but they did take care of business. Obviously, we know their loss to Florida State. Florida State's turned out to be not very good. But when you make a coaching change, there's a lot of people in that room that didn't feel sorry for Brian Kelly. They all know he's going to make, he's already gotten multi-gazillions. He's going to get multi-gazillions more. So that nobody's feeling sorry for his family or anything like that. They're going to be just fine. Okay. Generational wealth. You got a lot of players who didn't like him because maybe they weren't backups or they weren't getting chances or whatever. Everyone loves Frank Wilson, but of course, everyone loves the assistant coach. Everybody loves the backup quarterback. Now Frank Wilson will have his haters at the end of this year when he loses a game, when he doesn't play certain players, blah, blah, blah. But for right now, they love Frank Wilson. So there's a lot of juice in that room and a lot of opportunity. And, practice is different. Hey, I got a chance to show off to a new coordinator. Maybe I get more PT, that kind of stuff. So you're going to go in there with unpredictable film. Because they don't know what to expect on offense, and a renewed sense of purpose and 2 weeks to prepare. So I expect LSU to go over there against Alabama and give it and play them pretty well. And if they play them pretty well and they pull off the upset, then all of a sudden Arkansas at 11 a.m. against Petrino as a backup, interim coach, Western Kentucky. And then you're going into Oklahoma with some juice. If LSU can somehow win their last 4 games, Tommy, maybe we have a Coach O situation, with Frank Wilson. If you don't go big game hunting and get Lane Kiffin, you could always get Frank Wilson. I'm just saying, we didn't think the Coach O thing was ever going to happen, and it did. So could Frank Wilson be the next Coach O? New Orleans guy, Louisiana guy, beloved assistant coach, great recruiter, same resume that O had. And if he can somehow, pull off a string here down the stretch, stranger things have happened.
Well, if he goes 4-0 down the stretch, I can see how he would have to get consideration if he goes 4-0 down the stretch. Okay, he was a head coach at McNeese. He was a head coach at Texas San Antonio. Played at Nichols from New Orleans. I mean, we all know the story. And one or two times I've interacted with him, not recently. I always thought he was a great guy. So we'll see. But the rumors are going to fly, and I already had it last night of who got seen at the restaurant, who got saw at the airport, like the old days. But yeah, that's not going to happen anymore.
Well, we'll talk plenty more about the successor. It is a weird day. It doesn't happen very often in the history of LSU football that in the middle of the season a coach gets canned, but it's happened now a couple of times, 3 times in a row. Les Miles got let go after the 4th game. Coach O got fired, but it kept on as an interim for the rest of the season. And now Brian Kelly gets fired in the middle of the season, and Frank Wilson's going to be your interim coach the rest of the way. And then the Lane Kiffin watch begins. Shocking stuff. Let's talk a little World Series for a minute. TK, give us an update.
Game 3 tonight out in LA. Max Scherzer goes for Toronto. Tyler Glasnow goes for the Dodgers. Series tied at 1. Jays win game 1. Yamamoto, another complete game in the playoffs. Dodgers win game 2. Should be exciting out on the West Coast. Tonight, 7 o'clock start. Game 3 of the World Series. The next 3 games will be in LA. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Should they need a 6 and 7, those will be back in Toronto Friday and Saturday. Thursday be a travel day.
The Yamamoto, 2 back-to-back 9-inning complete games. I mean, like that's pretty awesome. But in this day and age, it's even more extreme. I mean, we just don't see complete games in MLB like we used to. And for him to do that on the biggest stage back to back and with the Dodgers back against the wall, so to speak, down 1-0 on the road in Toronto, Kevin Gausman was really good to the 7th inning. He went 6 2/3. He ended up giving up he had a 1-1 game into the 7th. He gives up a 1-out solo homer, then another 2-out solo homer. And 6 2/3, 3 earned runs. Not a bad performance by Kevin Gausman, a solid, good performance, but just you had to be perfect against Yamamoto. And now the Dodgers return home. I like the Dodgers going into the series. I like the Dodgers for the next 5 years to win the World Series or to be in it. That's that kind of roster, that kind of money, that kind of generational talent that they have. And so we'll see what happens. Gausman now 2-2 in the postseason this year.
Well, and the other thing about Yamamoto, if there's a question mark about the Dodgers, it's the bullpen, especially one of their best guys, Vesia, is out for personal reasons. He's not on a World Series roster. So the fact that he went a complete game and saves whatever arms they do have in the pen for tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday as needed, that's something that doesn't get talked about enough nationally when they say, "Oh yeah, well he threw a complete game." Well, he saved the bullpen, who has had the day off Sunday due to travel, and now they're good to go. And I think the Dodgers win this World Series, especially now. I mean, it's 1-1. I did think they'd win it before, although I thought Toronto would win game 1. Just some excitement, some juice, and they did do that. Dodgers may win the next 3. In fact, I'll say it: Dodgers are going to win the next 3 games out in LA.
New Orleans Saints, 23-3 thrashing yesterday against the Bucks. They played both quarterbacks. Shuck played most of every drive the second half, minus the first one in the third quarter. Both of them looked meh. If you look at both of them had no touchdowns, 1 interception. Rattler had a fumble to throw in there as well. Rattler had a higher completion percentage, but he does, not taking care of the football. Look, it's so bad, and it's only going to get worse. What are they, a 13.5-point dog on the road at the Rams?
I mean, they go to LA, that beautiful stadium, and they're a 13.5-point dog to the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable. Look, and oh, by the way, good news for the Saints. The Jets won. Mason Taylor, the LSU Tiger tight end, the rookie, had the winning touchdown. But the Jets won, so now they're tied with the Saints for the worst record in the NFL. And they, by the way, those two teams play each other in New York in December, so that's going to have a lot on the line to see who potentially gets the first pick in the NFL draft. Um, don't want to get too excited, Tommy, but I'm digging my under 3.5 bet that I had. I mean, I had a minus
I,
5.5. That's a lock of the week. But under 5.5 wins as far as the Saints go, initial bet. But I also did a under 3.5 bet for plus 125 after the first week, I think. And so I really liking that one. Really
yeah,
liking that one.
I love you, Chad. 5.5. I think that's a lock. I think you could just put a check mark on that one. The other one, you can put a part of a check mark. I think that'll be there too.
Don't want to count my chickens before they hatch,
No,
but
can't do that.
I just don't see where are there 3 wins, 3 more wins on this schedule. I mean, Jets, of course, is a potential win. You think probably, maybe Atlanta, you can win one at home. Maybe Carolina, you think you can win one, but Carolina's won 4 games. I mean, I just don't know where there's 3 wins, especially they just keep getting more injuries. Now you're going to go to Shuck, and you're probably going to play him and let him as a rookie figure it out this year. He's not going to be any better than Rattler. So, I don't know. I don't know. Alvin
It's
Kamara limped off the field yesterday towards the end of the game. So, I don't know. All right, TK, tell us about Court Street Cafe.
Well, first off, Pelicans host the Celtics tonight. You're a Boston Celtics. So you got your Celtic green on right now. Boston's 0-3, Pelicans are 0-2. Somebody's going to get their first win, and the Pelicans are a 3.5-point favorite. I'm following the 82 game plan. I'm 2-0, and I've already bet Boston plus 3.5. We'll see how that turns out tonight. And win or lose, I'm going to keep it rolling. I've gotten kind of lucky on the first 2 wins, but luck counts, so I'll take it. And
Yeah,
then, of course,
definitely.
yeah. So we'll see with that. And, of course, LSU, Halloween's later this week. That's cool.
By the way, you're going with the plan of betting against the Pelicans, no matter what the line is, going the other way for the whole year. And I told everybody before the season, go against UL Lafayette football, go against Northwestern State football. If you'd have done that, you'd have had a 2-0 weekend. I mean, just those are two. Like, to hold your nose, don't look at the line, just go the other way, and then check your scores at the end of the night, and you're going to win a lot more than you're going to lose.
Raging Cajuns play at South Alabama this week. McNeese hosts Northwestern State over there in Lake Charles. So we'll see how
teams not very good. Both teams not
so
very good.
that game there might be tough one to watch, but they'll be out there getting after it. Hey, Ronnie, Court Street Cafe, they got the breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. Red beans and rice for lunch today. Char grilled oysters after 4 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. Steak night Saturday. They get their steaks from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. And their Sunday brunch, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The mimosas flowing. Excellent Sunday brunch here in Port Allen at Court Street Cafe. Jason and the staff do a super job. If you hadn't checked them out yet, you need to do that. Court Street Cafe. Hit them up on Facebook and Instagram. They do a great job of sharing their lunch specials, dinner specials, drink specials, dinner of the week, whatever it might be. Don't forget to like and share this show. We always ask you to do that. That's important. Whether you're watching on Facebook, X, or YouTube, like and share this show. Tell everybody about it. The next episode of Sports Shorts Daily will be Wednesday morning at about 9 a.m. Hopefully you'll check us out, and we'll see what other news we have on LSU football. Appreciate all the comments today. Everybody checking it out. Like and share this show. Happy Monday, everyone.